Good morning, everybody. So I'm Dave Carter from Wales and West Utilities. I'm currently a customer support officer within the company, and today my presentation is going to be improving communication during gas mains replacement work. So, to give you a little bit of background on what gas mains replacement work is, in 2002, gas distribution networks across the UK began replacing metal gas mains within a certain proximity of a building. This is in line with the government's health and safety executive. It's part of a larger 30-year programme which in 2016 and 17 alone saw Wales and West Utilities send out nearly 36,000 gas interruption letters to our customers. So, the former process of how we'd communicate with our customers during our gas mains replacement work, the customers would begin by getting a formal notification letter advising them that we were going to be coming into their street to carry out the work. The engineering team would then arrive on site and begin preparing the site, get the gas mains replaced. They then provide our customers with a 48-hour letter to arrange a day to replace the gas service pipe that then leads from the gas main up to their gas meter at their property. We'd then complete the work, tidy up, and leave the customer's property and then the site. So, what do our customers think of this process? So in 2017, customers that filled out a post-work survey to give us feedback on how we got on during the work scored us 8.62 out of 10 for question 5, which is advance notification. They also scored us 8.53 for question 7, which is communication during our work. So we had some challenges to identify, and as part of the process, we realized that we needed to improve communication methods between us and our customers. We needed to improve internal communication, not just with our external customers whose properties we're working at, but also our colleagues and co-workers as well within the industry and within the company. And we also needed to raise the bar on customers' expectations. We're not just meeting them, but we're also exceeding them as well. So, in June 2017, Wales and West Utilities trialled 4 customer support officers across our network. The aim is that they support the mains replacement programme, liaise with our engineering teams, liaise with our customers to try and improve the customer journey and experience that they have whilst we carry out our essential work. Subsequently, in 2018, we rolled out 9 CSOs across the network, me being one of them, and this is essentially what we look to do. We carry out a pre-replacement work door knock for our customers. We'll go and visit them in person, we'll find out what their needs are, if they have any specific requirements, we'll assess their gas services, we'll have a look at the meter locations and make notes then so our engineering teams have a bit of a heads up on what to expect before they get to the property. A big part of the role is identifying vulnerability as well. Certainly a very important thing for Wales and West Utilities, not just looking after our everyday customers, but also specifically our vulnerable customers as well. So we can identify customers' needs, make recommendations to our engineering managers and teams across the network then on the best way to approach each situation for each customer. We exchange some contact details with our customers as well, so they have a way of getting in touch with us throughout the work. We also have contact details for them as well, so if we need to give them updates, they can also, provide us with information at the same time. And then last but not least, we carry out a post-work door knock. So we'll go back once the work is complete to make sure the customer's happy, make sure they've had a good service, they've received a 10 out of 10 service, and if there is any issues, we can then look to address them and get them sorted out as soon as possible. So the current process, same as before, however, we've added in 2 new steps now, which, as previously mentioned, the customer now at step 2, after getting the initial letter, receives a visit from us. And then further on in the process, then once the work is complete, they receive another visit from us to make sure that everything is, as I said, okay. We leave some pre-work contact cards with them when we visit. Judges, there's a little pack that I gave you that you will have on your table. One of the cards that we give to our customers when we make initial contact is this one here, as you can see on the screen. It gives them some bullet point information about what they can expect during the work. It gives them some contact methods on the bottom, so my details are on there for my area, and I'll leave these cards with customers. We also have our customer service details on there as well, so we want to make it nice and easy and give a customer a nice range of methods that they can get in touch with us if they do have any questions or concerns. When we go back to complete our post-work door knock, we also leave a thank you card. And it basically explains to the customer the work at their property is now completed, and should they have any feedback for us, or if they haven't received a 10 out of 10 service, we'd like them to get in touch with us as soon as possible, because we want to make sure we can put that right. And again, our contact details are on the bottom. Customers will have one of these whether we speak to them or not. Obviously, if we don't speak to them, we want to make sure that questions are answered, so it's a way of communicating with them, and then they can then communicate with us should they have questions during the process. So moving forward, we've identified that productivity and workload is going to increase now over the coming years. There's lots of gas main that still needs to be replaced. So we had to think of ways and initiatives that we could improve processes moving forward. And one of those things is the Customer Excellence Action Group. Started with the CSOs and some senior management within Wales and West Utilities. We meet once a month in different patches across the network, and we'll go out and meet engineering teams. We'll discuss firsthand what their barriers are, what blockers they've got, what's preventing them from potentially providing a 10 out of 10 service. What are they doing on site that's raising that bar so customer service is getting improved even more? And how do they then go about communicating with customers on a daily basis? We then take this back, have a meeting afterwards. There's Alliance leadership team presence in these meetings from Wales and West and Morrison's Utility Services, so we're then able to discuss the feedback and put action plans in place if needs be to try and improve things within that area, subsequently improving the customer journey overall. One of the other things that was developed is a concept that I began working on when I was fairly new to the CSO role, is a picture sheet. This started out as about a 5 or 6 page picture booklet, which basically has various different pictures of what gas mains replacement work is going to look like. It gives before, it gives sort of during, after, and then sort of in between pushes where we're inserting gas main, big lots, sets of barriers, coil trailers, so it can be quite intrusive for customers whilst we're in the street. It's a way of showing customers firsthand what it's going to look like before we get there. I think it's not always easy to visualize what a working gas site will look like whilst we're there. I think this has had some tremendous success. We've also got some reinstatement examples on there as well, customer concerns, what's it going to look like once we're done. Well, we've got examples of that to show them as well. Now, this was developed into a booklet, as I previously said. We decided that it was a little bit too big. 6-7 page booklet. It was a little bit too big to carry around, so we sat down, we redesigned it into an A4 sheet. It's extremely easy to carry. I carry it along with my cards and other things when I'm doing the door knocks. Has had some tremendous success with customers. I've had customers who were very hesitant letting us dig on their driveway. Having shown them some pictures, explained the process to them, we've got a green light to go ahead. So it certainly does work. The Tidy Site campaign. Now, this is something Wales and West have had in place sort of predating the CSOs, and in my previous role, I monitored the inbox where the emails come in from customers. Essentially, the gas sites will have these signs pinned to the barriers. Explains to customers what they can do to rate our site, give us feedback on what they think the gas mains replacement work sites look like. They simply take a photo, send it to us via email, and then they get entered into a draw, which is drawn monthly, and they could win £50 worth of shopping vouchers. So there's something in it for the customer as well. It's just another method of communication, which is why I've included in the presentation today. We're very keen on getting feedback from customers and trying to use different methods of which they can communicate with us, and then we can communicate with them is extremely important. It's got our website, Facebook, and Twitter on there as well. So if they want to get in contact via social media, which is a seriously large growing platform in this day and age, they can do so as well. The KICK app, so this stands for Knock, Inform, Complete and Knock Again. Morrison's Utility Services, who are one of our partners and contractors within the mains replacement work that we do, designed this app. It's an in-house app that they designed for the CSOs to use to capture customer data. The current process is that we write the information down on a spreadsheet, we then edit that spreadsheet and we pass it on to the relevant parties, obviously in line with GDPR. The app is designed for us to be able to capture the customer information, store it on a central database, with the idea in the long term being that everybody involved will be able to access that information securely, making it a lot quicker and easier to get hold of customer information if it's needed. It's a little bit of an example there on the screen where you can see we simply enter the customer details into the format, the vulnerable side of things as well, and then also when we complete a post-work knock, we can ask the customer some questions and gauge feedback and scores on how they think we've performed during the process. Now, this was previously trialled by myself and one of my colleagues when I was working over in the Bristol patch of the company, and we did trial it with both pre and post door knocks, and it did have some quite good success. It made capturing customer details a lot easier, a lot quicker. You can put things in like time scales. Does the customer prefer to be contacted in the morning? Do they work nights? Would they prefer a PM contact? So we can then put that down, give that to the teams. They then know not to contact the customers, if they're sleeping in the morning, for example. The one-pager. This was something that came out of the Customer Excellence Action Group. We needed a way to improve communication between us and our engineering teams. It was well and good us meeting with them every now and again once the projects had started, but we needed a way to show customer feedback to them, what their scores were, and then feedback directly from customers so they know where they can make improvements during their daily working routines. So we basically have a league table at the top of the page, and it'll have the customer scores that the customer's given those teams over the year and also for the month. Then it breaks down what the depot score is, so that's the patch. So for me at the moment, it's the Treforest depot. It would have their overall score on there. Their first line manager, so the project manager's score overall as well, which is an average of all their teams. And then also what the score is as a Western Gas Alliance, which is us and our partners, Morrison's Utility Services. On the back then, we've got negative and positive feedback. We break that down and monitor that every month when the post-work surveys come in. We'll then assign them to the team's one-pagers, and they can see firsthand what customers are saying about them, about the work they've done, whether they were happy or not, and then between us then and our engineering teams, we can look to make improvements, which is obviously good. We've also got the rigs interruption times. Now, rigs interruption times might not mean a lot to some in the room, but basically it's the time the customer is off gas, okay? So the time that we turn the gas off, get the work done and get the gas back on, we want our teams to keep that down to an absolute minimum, so it allows them to review week on week, month on month, what their average times are, so they can start improving that if needs be, replanning jobs to make the process better for the customer. So how are we doing now? In 2018, customers that completed a post-work survey scored us 8.81 out of 10 for question 5, which is an increase of 0.19. And 8.69 for question 7, which is communication during the work, which is up by 0.16. To put this into a bit of perspective for you, month on month, generally we see a fairly incremental increase in scores, increase nonetheless, but across networks, across the board, scores generally tend to go up by 0 point something. So it's not whole ones, but it's showing a rather large improvement based on previous figures. What do our customers think? Well, it's always good to know firsthand what our customers think of what we do. It's how we progress, how we innovate, how we move forward as a business. So here's a couple of live examples from customers. One was a letter that the customer wrote in, which is on the right-hand side, about one of my colleagues, Georgie. And then the left-hand side there was a comment that was made on the post-work surveys and subsequently would have been on the one-pagers. So door-to-door contact, much nicer when someone took the time to tell us what would happen next, and then by leaving contact details if there's any issues. So it just goes to show that the innovations and the inputs that we've had, not just customer support officers, but as a company, have really had a positive impact on what our customers are saying and what they're thinking. And that's the end goal, improving customer service, making sure that the customer has a perfect journey. We're there doing work that they may see as unnecessary. It's about educating, it's about understanding why we're doing the work, and then what we need to do moving forward to make further improvements. Do you have any questions? And thank you very much.
David, thank you very much. We hadn't actually agreed who was going to go first, so should we just run down the line?
Yeah, interested in you made a comment on internal communication, which didn't cover much in your presentation. Can you tell us a little bit about the experience that you had internally?
Sure, absolutely. So internal communication is just as vital as external communication, essentially. If we're not getting it right internally, then we may not get it right externally either. So there's a few different initiatives that have been put in place since the CSOs have been in post, one of which is the communication between the customer services team in the call centre and us then live on site, which is previously, if a customer were to phone in, they take the customer's details, a bit of information about their background, they'd pass it over to us, we would then get back in touch with the customer. We wanted to try and minimize the number of phone calls where possible between the customer, us, etc. So now there's a form that's been generated that the customer service team fill in. They give the brief, which is what we'd explain to customers, the generics about the work. Then they document key information about vulnerabilities, meter positions, etc. The same thing that we would do on site. They advise the customer then that the engineers will be in touch with a 48-hour notice, and they then pass that information on to us so then we can review that, take anything we need from it, and move forward. So we'll contact the customer if they need it, but if they don't and they're happy with what the customer services team have provided, we've cut a phone call out. So it's one less phone call for the customer, and it's shortened and improved the journey, essentially. The one-pager has had a massive impact on us and the teams. The teams, some of which have been in the industry 30, 40 years. Obviously, the saying goes, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, you can actually, and these one-pagers have proved that the communication between us and them has changed dramatically. It's almost added in a little sense of competition. When we sat there at the beginning, we did a presentation on their scores. They were a little bit ooh-ah about the scores. We then showed them in the league table. The competition started, and ever since, now I get phone calls every month. Where's my one-pager? What are my scores? So it just goes to show that it has had a good impact.
Thank you. David, I'm very interested in your personal part of this plan that you've put together. Could you give me a little bit of background to how you came up with this plan and your personal involvement, please?
Sure. So it's been a mixture of involvement between myself, the CSOs, obviously our line managers, etc. The picture booklet was designed between me and two of my other colleagues, and we were discussing one day how we could improve the way that we explain things to customers. So naturally, I sat down, started gathering photos. We then put it into the original picture booklet, which subsequently ended up as the picture sheet. Got it laminated. I then trialed it. We had good feedback. It worked. So then we then pushed that out across all the CSOs as well. So they all use it now and they'll have it available as a tool. The contact cards never used to look like this. The front page did. The rear didn't. On the back, it just said, we came today to discuss the work. Please give me a call to discuss the work when it's convenient for you. We found that that wasn't necessarily the best way of going about it. If we bullet pointed the key information, then that would improve the customer journey. It would be there as a reminder for them if they forget. So my personal involvement in that was part of the CEG meetings, the Customer Excellence Actions Group. That was one of the bits of feedback that I gave, that the cards could be improved. My colleagues were all the same. The feedback was almost unanimous, if you like, but that was the feedback that I had there. And then the one-pagers, the involvement I had there, again, CEG meeting, it was an initiative that came out of that. I took the time with my colleagues to discuss what would be good on the one-pager, what wouldn't be good. In the end, we worked together to come up with that project.
David, what further improvements would you recommend that WWU take to improve the customer scores even further?
I think there's a lot of further improvements we can make. Every company on the planet can always make improvements. I think, if you stop trying to improve, it's the minute you stop innovating, which I think, I don't think any company should do that. When I mentioned the Kick app previously, funnily enough, very recently actually, a decision's been made that we're going to halt the process with the Morrisons Utility Services Kick app, and Wales and West are actually looking at redesigning their internal systems, so all the systems will communicate better with each other. Part of that improvement would be a Wales and West app as opposed to a Morrisons one, which can communicate directly with back-end systems, and that way when we're updating information live in the field, it'll instantly update systems in the back office. The customer service guys can see it. The app will then bounce around the information to the teams, the logistics, the reinstators. That's the idea in the long run, so it'll have a massive impact on not just us, but potentially the way that the industry works and our partners work as well.
Can you...
I have to be quick on this one.
Okay, I'll be very quick in that case. It's a sort of double question, but you can be quick on both answers. The first is, what account of best practice did you take into account, and where would you say the best practice exemplar for customer service for this activity is?
So best practice, I think partly with our role as CSOs is how we interact with customers. We speak to thousands of customers. It's about being consistent. It's the same message, the same friendly approach, treating every customer as an individual, making sure teams are clearing up the sites, making sure the sites are tidy, they're picking up the rubbish, they're communicating with customers as much as possible. There's so many things that you could say are best practice, some of which seem common sense, but to us, I think best practice is being very consistent with each and every customer and understanding that every customer is an individual and has individual needs as well.
And who's the exemplar?
Sorry, what do you mean by exemplar?
Who would you say, these people are best at doing this?
I'd say all of the CSOs, big shout out to them, and I'd also say there's a couple of engineering teams that I've worked with in the past who, they're the most productive teams, they're the tidiest teams, they have the highest customer scores, so I'd say, certainly the guys that are doing the physical work are the ones to look up to. Okay.